our next question comes from Austin. Austin writes, "Hello, Fine Homebuilding Podcast. I first want to thank you for the great content you put out each week. I'm interested in hearing your opinion about the different products for retaining walls. We're in the process with a landscape designer for planning our backyard. The backyard is on a slope, so the landscape designer is calling for a terraced yard. An upper and lower wall will be used to break up the sloping backyard. Each wall will be at about 2 feet in height above grade, so probably with base material, the total amount of wall material will be used about 3 feet. Currently, there's already a single timber retaining wall in the backyard. I'm an all-access member, so I've taken advantage of the Fine Homebuilding project guides and reading about the various ways to build a retaining wall. In calculating the amount of material needed for the 2 terrace design, there is not much of a cost difference between a dry stack stone and modular concrete retaining block wall. We'd like to have a vegetable garden between the 2 walls, and initially my thought was to stay away from the timber retaining wall material because of the possible chemicals leaching out of the wood. After calculating the cost of stone and modular block, I'm wondering if timber would still be an option and possibly breaking down the existing timber retaining wall and repurposing the timbers for the upper level. The house was built in 1986, which I'm sure was about the same time the original retaining wall was built. Do you know if timber retaining walls were injected with chemicals back then, and are they still used in existing timber wall materials? Austin from North Carolina, your thoughts and opinions on these material choices will be much appreciated." So anyone familiar with what Austin's existing retaining wall is made from? I bet, Ian, you're familiar with this product.
It looks like some kind of like a railroad tie timber that's probably injected with as much creosote as it can handle.
Brian's nodding, and I think that's what it is too. Yeah, so I think it was probably, out of vogue by the time you started building stuff, and because, it was largely taken off the market because of toxicity. So great material, lasts forever. Railroad ties are in service for decades and hold up fantastic in freeze thaw, but yeah.
Farmers love it because the animals will not eat it. Whereas any other wood that you put out there, hickory boards, ash boards, oak boards, they'll just eat. They'll get bored and they'll rub it up and chew it apart. But the good old creosote stuff from the 70s and 80s, they won't go anywhere near it.
What do you think we should tell Austin about using his creosote treated timbers and rebuilding his new wall?
So I think he could reuse them if he wanted to, but I think he'd have to do something on the inside of them with a plastic membrane to keep the dirt off of them for his vegetable garden. And whether or not that then makes it not worth doing, it's hard to say.
What do you think, Brian?
Yeah, I just feel like if you're really want to do vegetables, maybe one of the other options is a better, maybe the modular stone or real stone wall is just a better option. If you care, who knows, right? Because I'm sure you could build a pressure treated retaining wall and have a vegetable garden near it. And because of the way water ran, never have a problem. But do you want to take that chance? Because likely some chemicals are going to get into the earth. So I guess it's how willing you are to take a chance. But I think the safe bet is to just go with something masonry.
Had some great sketch up of his project though.
And it makes the yard really cool and useful. I think that's the best part of it. Boy, if you have stone on your site, Austin, I don't know where you are in North Carolina, and it could, depending on where you're at, you could have a lot of stone or red clay exclusively. If you have it on site, boy, I would do it out of that just because it's super fun. And if it moves seasonally or over years, you just
stack it back up.
Stack it up again. It's like how farmers in New England have dealt with rocks in their, farm fields and landscape for centuries. And boy, I don't think any of the new pressure treated preservatives are up to the job of being retaining walls. I just don't think they have the longevity that the good stuff did.
No, I don't think so either. Maybe Austin could get in with the redwood siding guy, and then they could just split an entire tree. Austin could get some timbers out of it and redwood siding guy could get his nickel gap redwood siding from the last episode.
I'm curious about folks who use, domestic native local hardwoods in construction projects like this. I'm guessing Austin has oak trees available where he is, and that would have locust also. Not forever, but looks cool, and sometimes you can get that stuff pretty affordably. And I would point out too that the walls are not that tall, so you don't have to worry about like a risk should they collapse, right? If they fall over because they rotted 10 years from now, it's not a life safety issue, I would guess. Any other thoughts on Austin's landscape or retaining walls, gents?
I'm just impressed by his SketchUp, and the overall design of it, I think is pretty cool. And you could use a few of those in your yard, Patrick. A nice little terraced garden going down to the water behind you. That'd look pretty cool.
So for, 12 plus years, Carol has been pulling stones out of our sandy soil and making what amounts to, retaining walls with stacked dry rocks. And yeah,
it's fun. I love building retaining walls, and playing with grade and terraces and in a landscape is just kind of a lot of fun.
I think the most fun that I had building my house was we have our 2 stone retaining walls, and those are stones from the stone wall fence separating our farm from the one adjacent to it. And it was fun to go dig them out of the wall with my dad and hear some of like his remembering of when that stone got pulled out of a field. And most of the stones are several hundred pounds, and they're all pretty good sized. But it was one of the best memories I have of building the house.
I'm guessing they conjured some not so great memories for your dad, Ian, when he was recalling how the plowshare just like broke in half when it hit one. Yeah.
He did have a good stone that we pulled out, and he did talk to me about how he remembered hitting that one with the plow because it actually stopped the plow and the John Deere 4440 dead in its tracks.
And it probably still had the gash in it from that collision. Yeah.